Appreciate it. I have beverage in hand, as you can see. There it is. They actually spelt my name correctly today. Wonders never cease. I collect photographs of the insane names I've been given at Starbucks. I think they do it for entertainment. Really, I do. So in case you're joining us for the first time, I just want to tell you a little bit of who I am. My name is Dov Baron. I'm the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. You can find out more about me by simply Googling DOVBARON. I am an international speaker, voted by Inc. Magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers in the world for you to hire. And I'm also the founder of the Leadership and Loyalty podcast, which is the #1 podcast in the world for Fortune 500 listeners. So get yourself over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And by the way, jump on over to YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube as a playback, get on over to YouTube. When you get there, subscribe to my channel, and I'll tell you why. Because I've got a brand new leadership course that's out, a digital course, e-course, that you can actually go and sign up for by simply going to YouTube, hitting the subscribe button, then come back onto this video and just write the word done. If you write the word done, we'll search you out and we will send you a $50 discount coupon. We're going to give you $50 for subscribing. That's pretty good. $50 discount for subscribing. We're going to give you a $50 discount for that course. Pretty cool. Lisa says, and has been on global reach radio shows, podcasts, and as some more than any other previous guest. That is true. I have been on Lisa's show more than any other guest, and I'm very honored and very grateful. Thank you, Lisa. If you haven't checked out Lisa's show, you should check out Lisa's show, Living Fearlessly. Fabulous show on Contact Talk Radio. She broadcasts out to about 140 countries around the world. She has some superstars on there, and she's going to have even more. So you should check out Lisa's show too. All right, big shout out there for everybody. Thank you for joining us. I want to jump into the content of today's show. So what's today's show about? Yeah, the other day I put out a question on social media, and the question was this: why do people tolerate people and situations they disagree with? And I got a ton of people who responded with their input about why they thought it was. Seemed from some of the answers, some people misunderstood, but generally there was a wide variety of answers. And today I want to sort of go into that. I want to dive into that and have you grasp the context of why people do this, and I know I've done it, and I'm sure you have too, and how to actually correct it, and what it is that will make you far happier in the process by actually doing what it takes. So here's the thing. I want you to think about in your own life right now. Think about a situation where you put up with people or things that are going on that really misalign or disagree with who you are, sort of feeling like a fundamental level, and yet you know that, like, this is not right for me. You know, oh, I don't really want to be dealing with this person or this situation, yet you continue to. I want you to think about that. And this came out of some of my work that I was doing with a client who made this massive shift when we were doing purpose work. Now, as you know, I do a lot of my work focused around purpose, finding what we call your soul purpose, what's at that core of who you are, and realizing what it is that keeps people from being in their purpose or on purpose in their life is when you start asking these questions around why do you put up with certain things. So I'm having this conversation with this lady, Catherine, you know, a successful business person, and she's talking to me about a situation. And in that situation she's talking to me about, she's telling me that she really dislikes her work, her work environment, not necessarily the work, but the work environment. And I was like, okay, well, couldn't you just simply get up, walk away, and do something else? And her answer was no. Now that for me was fascinating, because of course it's a limited idea. Why can't you get up and just walk away? And I understand that's far easier said than done. Don't get me wrong, I'm not making any assumptions here. Of course, it's always easier said than done, but I wanted to understand why she could not get up and walk away. We all have our own reasons, but I want to know what hers were. Why could she not get up and walk away from a situation, a work environment that she did not agree with, and in fact grated on her since, really bad? And so we began to talk about it. And what we began to talk about was that no situation, and I want you to grasp this, if you have a pen and you maybe take a note on this, no situation exists in isolation. So no situation exists in isolation. So let me give you an example. And I'm going to use the example of a family business, because many of my followers and fans are part of that world. But you can think about it in your own context at all, but this is just a way for you to understand it. So let's imagine that you love your mom, or you love your dad, or you love your sibling, and you actually work in a family business. So you have a family, but it's not in isolation. That family also is overlapped. So the circle of the family is overlapped into the circle of the business. Now, you may not like the business. You may not like the business at all, but you want to be part of the family. You like your mom, you like your dad, you like your sibling. On the other end, it could be just the other way around, in that you really love working in the business, but your mom or your dad or your sibling drive you nuts, and you can't, So the first thing for us to grasp is that no situation exists in isolation. There is always an overlap. And it's in these overlaps is where we begin to tolerate. Now, tolerance, as you've heard me talk about before, is a very misunderstood word, because what we have it mean is put up with, rather than tolerance being something of, I have no judgment of, it's you can do whatever you want, I'm fully tolerant of you living your lifestyle in any way you want, it's none of my business, I get to choose what impacts me, that's all. Rather than tolerance is, I have to put up with it. So here's what I believe, and I have the psychological data to back it up. I want you to know up front, we'll go to this and then we'll walk right through it. Why do people put up with situations and other people that they totally disagree with, that they're maybe completely misaligned with? Why do they do that? What is it? What is that desire that is so strong it will overrule your own value system? What is it? And the answer is, quite simply, every human being desires to belong. We all feel the need to belong. It is inherent within all human beings. Now, what does that mean? Well, think about where you are born. You are born, generally speaking, into a family. So there's the first place you are going to want to belong. And that is inherent, by the way. Even if you get to your teens and you don't want to belong to that family anymore, initially, at the beginning, you want to belong more than anything. You want to belong to that family. You want to be part of that family. We all have that desire to belong. And if you feel expelled from that family, you will still feel the desire to belong, and you will create another family. And you think about this even in your own life or in the lives that you've seen, that when I don't feel part of my own family, I'll go hang out with my friend's family. I want to feel like I'm part of it. And people will even say, you probably, when you were a kid, you probably had some neighbor who said, oh, well, Lisa or John or Bob or whoever it was, they're just kind of part of our family. Even though you weren't a blood member of the family, you inserted yourself into that family so that you got that sense of belonging that you deeply desired. Now, if that continues long enough, meaning you feel isolated from the original place of belonging, which is family, then you will create a new family, and this is how people end up in gangs and in cults. This is exactly what it is. It's not anything other than that deep desire to belong. And this is why people go, well, how did Charlie end up in a cult? I mean, Charlie's a lawyer, he's highly educated. How the hell would he end up in a cult? Because it's the desire to belong. And the desire to belong will make us do things that are completely contrary to what we claim is our value system. So the real test of your value system is, will you challenge your own value system to belong, or will you challenge what you belong to in order to hold your value system? That's when you get to a real integrity question that most people don't have the wherewithal to do. So the original place of wanting to belong is within the family. Now again, using the analogy of a family business. So in this first circle, we've got family. We want to belong to that family. In the second circle, the one that slightly overlaps it, we've got the ownership of the business, for instance, right? So now do I want to belong there? Do I want to feel like I'm an owner? And the third one might be the actual business itself, meaning the running of the business. So we've got these three circles that slightly overlap. Now I want you to think about those because, as an analogy for yourself, because you may want to belong to one or even two, but if you don't want to belong to all three with the other people in that group, then you will feel isolated. You will feel like you don't belong. You will feel like there's, quote, something wrong with you, that you are somehow inadequate, that you are not good enough. These are the feelings that come up when we don't feel like we belong. So wherever those three circles cross over, that slight overlap in any one of those sections is what we call the conflict zone. So I want to belong to the family, but I don't, and I want to belong to the wealth because the family makes money and I get a lifestyle from that, so that's great. I want to belong to that. But I don't want to belong to business because I'm not a business head. I'm an artist, or I'm someone else, you know, and that this whole model of business doesn't work for me, so I feel like I want to get away. But no situation exists in isolation. So if I remove myself from the business, I feel like I'm now removed from belonging to the family or to the ownership. Is this making sense? Now think of it in a club. In a club, you know, you the isolation, you belong to the club, okay? But the club has activities, and you're on the committee. So again, it's these three circles, and you might really want to belong to the club, but you don't like the committee, and you love the activities. Now you've got a conflict zone. No situation exists in isolation, and if we want to belong, this is where all the issues come up, because we have to look at these overlapping conflict zones. Now, I'll jump away from that three circles and have you look at something else for a moment. Belonging, when we take it deeper within ourselves, when we go to a deeper level, we have to look at this. The desire to belong is inherent. You can't get away from it. But the question of what I want to belong to, at a conscious desired level, I choose to belong to, rather than I was born into and therefore should belong to, is vastly different. So the first place of belonging is with yourself. And this is a place that most people never fully, not everyone, but many people never fully get to. They never take ownership of belonging to themselves. So the desire to belong to another, the desire to find that, quote, other half, the desire to belong to this dysfunctional family, or the desire to belong to this dysfunctional club, or whatever it might be, the desire to belong to this group that doesn't agree with my values is going to be very strong, because I've not come home to say, do I belong to myself? And the obvious answer at a rational level, at a head level, is of course I belong to myself. But do you? So what does it take to belong to yourself? Well, let's sort of walk down that a little bit. To belong to yourself, of course, you have to know yourself. You've got to be willing to know yourself. And that is an ongoing process. So that's number one. You've got to be able to know yourself. You've got to be willing to inquire. You've got to be continuously curious about yourself and your evolution as you're going through that. That's at the first level of it. Then you got to look at, okay, if I know myself, then if I'm going to belong to myself, I got to know what triggers me. Now, when I say triggers you, I'm not necessarily talking about pisses you off, although that's part of it. Like, what is it upsets you? For sure. What is it that gets you go? What is it that can rile you? Of course. But what triggers you to feel motivated? What triggers you to feel inspired? What triggers you to want to make a difference? Right? Those, you need to look at that too. So you got to know your triggers. And that can't happen until you know yourself, or until you're willing to know yourself better. Right? So now you've got you're knowing yourself, you're finding out what your triggers are. And then you go, okay, well, what else is there for me to really belong to myself? Well, I've got to look at what is non-negotiable for me. What do I know about me that is, this is the way it has to be for me. Because if I'm trying to belong to that group over there and it's got disagreements with my non-negotiables, then I'm belonging to something that puts me out of integrity with myself. So again, I'm not belonging to myself. Is this making sense? These are the steps. Now, there's more to it, and of course I'm giving you the very quick overview of this. So we've got to belong to ourselves first. Now, we talked about our 3 circles before, which is, using the analogy, we talked about the family, and we talked about the wealth that is generated by the family, and then we talked about the business. Well, down here what we're going to talk about is this. We've got this up top, we've got this place which is ownership of self, and which is belonging to self. And then the overlap next to that one is relationships. Now you see, if I don't know myself, if I don't know what triggers me, if I don't know what's non-negotiable for me, then I'm going to be in relationships that I'm out of integrity with. And I'm going to want to belong to that relationship. I'm going to want to feel part of that relationship, but be out of integrity with myself and feel the misalignment between those things. So I'm going to want that. Then, using back to the analogy of money, of family business, let's say it's the actual wealth itself. So now I can feel, if I don't know myself, I'm going to start, quote unquote, selling my soul for money. I'm going to let myself be in things and do things that are out of integrity with that. So we start to see, and this is what I want you to grasp, is that no environment exists in isolation. So you don't have any control over that. I'll give you another example. Think about this. You're having a party, and you want to invite this bunch of people. You've got this great party list of all these amazing people you want to invite. And these are people you've known for, some of them for a month, and some of them for 20 years. And you want to invite them all to come to your party because they're really cool people. But very often what we think is, I can't invite Anne because she doesn't get along with Bob. Or I can't invite Bob because he pisses off Michael. And we start to realize that our relationships don't exist in isolation. They do as long as we keep them isolated. And by God, many people try very hard to do that. But it doesn't exist. There is no relationship in isolation. So what is the cure? If we now understand, okay, the family doesn't exist in isolation, the business doesn't exist in isolation, the wealth doesn't exist in isolation, the relationships don't exist in isolation, whatever it is, nothing exists in isolation. There's all these overlaps, and the overlap between any one of them where you disagree or you feel out of integrity becomes a conflict zone, and God knows we'd love to avoid some conflict, so we start to belong to things that we don't feel in integrity with ourselves, which now means we dislike ourselves, which means that we now feel like we don't belong to ourselves and we feel inadequate and there's something wrong with us. See how this is a very nasty, vicious circle. This is why we got to know ourselves, know our triggers, know our boundaries, etc. There's more to it, as I said, but this is just giving you the top level view. So now then we go, okay, so what is the cure? What is the bonding factor between these overlapping environments? What is the thing that will bring it all together? And the answer is this: purpose. Purpose is the glue. You see, once you've deeply inquired and you know what your purpose is, once you get clear on this is what my purpose is, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, then you know your value system. You know what it is that drives you. You know what it is that you want to drive you. You know why you get out of bed in the morning. And the interesting thing about purpose is that your purpose is there. Like many people think that they know their purpose when their life is going great. I know I did, until I fell off a mountain. But the point you actually know your purpose is when things are going absolutely crap. They're going down a toilet at hyper speed, and you're still in that place of the same purpose. That becomes the foundation. Now again, can't do it without the know thyself piece, but that purpose piece now has me going to looking at, i.e., back to that model again, looking at the family and saying, okay, is this family, are these individuals in this family aligned with my purpose? If this family is not aligned with my purpose, do I belong? Now, yes, I belong at a blood level, but do I want to belong? That's number one. Do I want to belong to this family? And you say, okay, yeah, I do. Now I say, okay, so the conflict is where I don't want to belong. So where is the glue? And the glue is in the purpose. Now, in the conversations, you can find out, well, where does my purpose align with Uncle Tom or Dad or Mom? And as a result, you may get to a place of going, we don't match. But when we all come together and we're all committed, and we say, yeah, we want to belong, we want to be a healthy family, then we can build what we call a core purpose, a soul purpose for a group. So this is one of the things I get to do. I get to build, elicit and then build with the core purpose of an organization, the core purpose of a family, the core purpose of an individual, and then look at how those things tie together. This is the amazing glue that creates the unification that has people really feel like they belong to something that matters. Because that's what we're all looking for. We're looking to belong. We want to belong deeply. So that's why people do the things that they feel misaligned with. It's the reason that people do the things that feel out of integrity, because there's deep, deep desire to belong, which is a human need in all of us. We want to belong. We want to feel part of. We want to feel connected to. But if we don't do the self-examination, if we don't know ourselves, then it becomes a base need. And what I mean by a base need is, think of this. Think about when you're starving hungry. Okay? When you're starving hungry, what's good food? And the answer is any food. But when you're full, or pretty full, and somebody comes along, you can have some discernment about what it is that you put into your mouth. It's a basic need that's taken care of, but you decide for yourself what else you want. That's how it works with your purpose. It's a way for you to fill up and not go into your relationships, not go into your situations starving. You're not just going to take anything that comes. So I hope that this has been valuable and helpful to you. I hope that you found it useful and that you're going to think about where it is that you are pursuing the desire to belong, and whether you're actually out of integrity. Decide to get to know yourself a little bit more and dig in a little bit to what your purpose is. Because what I want to ask you to stay curious about, my friend, is where you are trading your integrity in order to belong, and how that would change dramatically if you're committed, truly committed, to finding your purpose. And remember, if you think you know your purpose, wait till the feces hits the fan. That's when we really find out whether we actually know our purpose. If you'd have asked me the day before I fell off the mountain, do I know my purpose? The answer would have been yes. after I fell, after being smashed to pieces, after going through 10 or 12 reconstructive surgeries, and that horrendous period of time of recovery, I didn't know my purpose. But I found it through that. The answer is that you don't actually have to wait until you go through horrendous times in order to find your purpose. You can do that work now while things are good, rather than waiting to test it when things are tough. And believe me, finding your purpose then is a lot more raw when things are rough, but it's very painful, and you don't have to do that. Okay, so I highly recommend that you don't. So again, I hope that you have found this valuable, useful, and I hope that you will share it, hit that share button, and share this show with everybody that you know and add value to their lives. I appreciate you being on here. Remember, if you go over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, or if you're watching this on YouTube, if you subscribe to this channel and click done or write done, we will find you, we will hunt you down, and we will give you a $50 discount on my brand new Authentic Leadership e-course that is now live, and you can get it. And it's a fabulous course. It's absolutely jam-packed. It's really got some great material in there, and I highly recommend that if you're committed to being an authentic leader, you go over there and check it out. All right? So if there's anything else I can do for you, I'm going to stay on here and answer any questions. If anybody has any, feel free to jump in. But as it is, I'm just going to sign off, but stay with you. All right? So till next time, this is Dov Baron, FullMontyLeadership.com, where you can come and find out about hiring me or anything you want, writing for Entrepreneur Magazine, etc. And until next time, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about how you can have a deeper sense of purpose and belong to yourself first. All right, we're out. And now I'm going to stay with you and answer any questions if there was any. Let's find out. Let's go. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see. I'm flipping back. Some people on here I haven't seen in a while. That's pretty cool. All right. Let's have a look. Okay. So, who we got on there? We had Kevin on here. We had Lisa on here. Christy on here. We had Karen on here. Many of you shared the show. That's really cool. Thank you very much. Drewish from the UK was on with us, which is really cool. Let's have a look. Any questions? No, these are nice shout outs, which is really great, and I really appreciate it. And Lisa's suggesting you buy yourself a goldfish and move on if you want to belong to something. Of course you did, yeah. And let's have a look. I think that is it. There's a ton of beautiful comments, so thank you very much. Michael, good to have you on, and you'll take a look at the replay. Appreciate it. Came in a bit late. That's cool. And all right, so I'm going to sign off now. There was no questions. Hopefully I've set a little bit of fire under your ass. Till next time.